everyone. I am here to talk about a show that ended, I think, last year. I just want to talk about it because I just barely finished it. I binged it. Better Call Saul from the Breaking Bad universe. It's a spin-off, prequel, whatever you want to call it, to the Breaking Bad series. Yeah, man, I love Breaking Bad. One of my favorite shows of all time. We'll see after the review here, but I will say up to this point, Breaking Bad to me was the best thing I've ever seen on television. The best television show ever. And so Better Call Saul as a spin-off, when I heard the idea of it, I knew there was more there. I knew there was more to his character. But honestly, I just wasn't too hyped about it. I don't know what it was. I don't know why. I remember when the show first came out, I watched the first couple of episodes, and I was kind of keeping up for a little bit of the first season, but I just fell off. I don't know what I was looking for, honestly. I don't know what I was expecting. I think I was quickly expecting for there to be crossovers, kind of see exactly where Saul Goodman became Saul Goodman. I was looking for the moment he became this lawyer. As years went by, I stopped watching it. I recently started watching it again after a friend of mine finished it, and he said it was incredible. He's like, you gotta watch this. So I did. And again, same thing. The first couple of seasons, it just took me a while to really just latch on. I liked it. I thought the first couple of seasons were great. They were awesome to watch, but I couldn't keep up. I couldn't binge it. I would watch a couple episodes for a week, and then I just kind of stop and I kind of leave it there for a little bit. And like I said, I think I was looking for something. I don't know what it was. After binging it now from maybe around season 3 that I really felt the show grabbed me, I will say this is a masterful character drama series. It really takes its time pulling you in, and it's a slow burn story, but it needs that for these characters. As the story progresses and you begin to see that this isn't just about finding the moment that this guy becomes this crazy lawyer, Saul Goodman. It's almost like he's always been this person. It's always been in there. The story here is the progression and the evolving of that character, of Saul Goodman. In this, we find out that his name is Jimmy McGill. And so, he's a practicing lawyer, or he's, kind of trying to get there as a lawyer. His brother runs this big time, or he's, I guess, a co-founder. I don't know. He's like a partner with a big time lawyer group, law group, and he's kind of under his brother's shadow as kind of like the mess up. His brother's very successful, but he has some condition of himself in himself that, if you watch the show, I won't spoil too much here, but he's suffering from a certain condition, and Jimmy is kind of there for his brother throughout the series, throughout the first few seasons, and Jimmy is definitely playing under the shadow of his older brother, more successful brother. And so we see that Jimmy, Saul Goodman's already in there. It's just we get to see the evolution of that, and I think that's what makes this more interesting sometimes. Breaking Bad was definitely a crazy story, about a character story about this one man, and along the story, we fall in love with Jesse, and we kind of see they're both evolution of who they are, as one kind of gets to this dark place. Both get to this dark place, but one in a tragic way and one in just a cynical, evil way. Here, it's not just Saul's story. As much as I love his story as well, you kind of have a lot of different stories. The effects of what he does to the people around him, you begin to see. Specifically, Kim Wexler is the love interest of the story. Usually, I'm not the biggest fan of love interest, and especially in stories like this, where there's drugs and kind of like a political, or not political, crime drama series type stuff. But there's this chemistry between Kim and Saul, or Jimmy, that I really, really enjoyed. I really thought that they convinced me that they are this couple. They weren't just just thrown in there for whatever, to give kind of Saul Goodman this life story, which it's cool to see that we get to see this home life of Saul Goodman. And here we get to see, this girl Kim, who, for the most part, I do believe is a tragic story of the Better Call Saul series. Obviously, she's not in Breaking Bad. I won't, I'll leave it at that. But there is definitely a tragic story in there, because you want her to be kind of like the moral compass of them two, and her trying to bring Jimmy into, a better way of doing things, because she is a smart girl. She is definitely someone who is trying to do things right. But Saul is just such a gravitating character himself that he ends up pulling her into his direction more so. And that's the tragedy of a lot of these stories in the show. What I also love about this is bringing back Gus and Mike. We know they're, in Breaking Bad, Mike is kind of working for Gus. Here throughout this show, you get to see what really went down between a lot of, the Salamancas and, the Mexican cartel that Gus, in Breaking Bad was kind of going against. It's an intense look at Gus. It's Gus from, little moments that we get to see in Breaking Bad, and it's kind of elevated because now we really get to see Gus, in the middle of this war, essentially, with the cartels and the Salamancas. It's an interesting thing to see, and you get to see also Mike. Again, we get very little of him in Breaking Bad, and we get to see more of his family here, learn his backstory and what happened with his family. And man, again, it's another tragedy, because we know how Mike ends in Breaking Bad, and it's just such a tragedy to see how and where he was in Better Call Saul and what he was doing. And it was awesome. It was great to see those two characters. But Mike, man, it was just it was great to see how such of a badass he is. But it's the tragedy again, and I think that's the word that I keep thinking about when I think of this show, and what I got away from the show, what I took away from the show. It's the tragedy of decisions that we make and the consequences that come with those decisions. How tragic it can really take us. It can really pretty much take us into, whatever it is that we decide to do with our lives, and certain decisions, you can take it into your own life. And it's just a tragic ending to a lot of these stories. Two other characters real quick that I want to touch on. Ignacio Varga, Nacho. He is, a lot of people are saying he's the Jesse Pinkman of this show. I can see that. He's someone who does wrong. He's in this crime world. He's mixed in with the wrong people, but in his heart, he just wants to protect his father. In the show here, he has his father that he really cares about, and he just wants to make sure he's okay. And he became one of my favorite characters as well. And there's a scene in this show, and I will say it's one of the most shocking scenes that I've seen in both shows. That is just, it makes him a legend, man. It makes him unforgettable. I will always remember Nacho for this scene, for what he did. And man, Michael Mando, I think that's his name, just did an incredible job playing him. And it's a slow progression of who he was from the beginning to what he ends up being at the end of the show. Another one who isn't in Breaking Bad, but man, he added just so much to the show. And the other one that I want to talk about real quick, and I'll talk about someone else in a second, but Howard Hamlin is Chuck's partner, who is Saul's brother, Jimmy's brother's partner. We're told from the very beginning to not like this guy. He is this rich, kind of snobby, too good for everyone lawyer, and he's kind of very, very I don't know, he's just uptight all the time. And we're told, and I guess we're given this vibe from the show to not like him, because he's up against Jimmy. He's it almost seems like he's the one putting Jimmy down. And it's amazing how this story just flips on us, how in the end he really is the innocent one in a lot of the show and what's going on in the show. But it's another tragic story. It's another tragic character arc of Howard in the show. It's just he has another moment in the show that it still to this day leaves me just thinking, like, man, like, such a tragic ending to another story. Again, it's just, I don't know what other words to really use, but there's a moment with him in this show that you know, again, you're told to not like him. And for a while, you're kind of liking, you know, Jimmy and Kim kind of going at him, playing these pranks on him, picking on him in a sense, and you're kind of enjoying that. You're kind of like, oh yeah, stick it to him in a sense. And then as the show goes on, you're realizing like, no, wait a minute, like, I think he's really just trying to be a good guy. He's just trying to be a good person to Jimmy and to, you know, everyone around. He really is genuinely just a good guy. He's a little weird. He's a little, you know, out there sometimes, but he's just an innocent bystander in a lot of this of what happened in the show. Which leads me to Lalo Salamanca, one of the greatest villains of all time that I've ever seen in a television show. He's the type of guy that you kind of want to hang out with. You know, he's very inviting. His smile, the way he talks, he kind of seems like the guy that you want to hang out with at a barbecue, at a party, at a Mexican party. But the presence he brings is such an evil presence. It's such an eerie presence, and every time he comes onto the scene, onto the show, he steals it. He steals it, and I love Lalo Salamanca. As scary and how crazy he is, I truly love him. I love this show. I say all of this to say this might be better than Breaking Bad. I'm not sure yet, but the ending of this, it just felt right. It felt like this really put a bow tie on not just on Better Call Saul and Saul's story, but the whole Breaking Bad universe. It really just kind of closed it all out. And I guess I want to say thank you to Vince Gilligan, Peter Gould, for making this, for creating such a masterpiece, in my opinion. Not just Better Call Saul, but Breaking Bad. El Camino as well, for Jesse's story. It's such a beautiful, beautiful story. Tragic story of a world of just consequences and the decisions leading to these consequences. That's why I love the finale of this show, of this Better Call Saul, because it really is kind of a bow tie on everything, You know, this show doesn't just rely on nostalgia and Breaking Bad, even though in the final episodes there is nostalgia. You know, I will say they do bring it around to Breaking Bad. They do bring in some characters, and there's these conversations in the end in which, you know, and using flashbacks and, you know, all these different things in which Saul is talking to pretty much the people that he worked for, that he worked with, and he's asking them this question: would you change anything of your past? And different answers, you know, everyone's answering in such a way that they would change when a certain decision in their life altered their whole life, everything about them. And Saul, with each answer he would give, would be something very, I wish I would have, you know, I wouldn't have done this, you know, I would have made more money with that. Or it always went back to just him being Saul. And I like how throughout that last episode, we are taking on this question of consequences and to build, you know, it starts off with a time machine, building a time machine. What would you change of your past? And it brings us brings it around when he's talking to, you know, he asks the same question to his brother, and there's so, oh man, I can get into this, but it will spoil some things. And it's such a beautiful show, an emotional ending that really just brings it all home. I love Breaking Bad. I love Better Call Saul. These two shows, this is a perfect template on how to do a spin-off show, on how to make it interesting without relying on the nostalgia of Breaking Bad. This show stood on its own feet, and I thank them for this. This was beautiful to watch. Better Call Saul, man. If you have not seen it, and you have seen Breaking Bad, check it out. If you have not seen any of this, watch it. Watch everything. Watch Breaking Bad first, though. Even though Breaking Bad was after Better Call Saul, Better Call Saul really does, again, just tie everything together and ends everything perfectly. And I really, really appreciated it. So that's my review of the show. There's no rating. It's just a perfect all-around story. Incredible job by everyone around. Bob Odenkirk is Saul. He's been playing it for 12 plus years, and I thank you, sir. I thank you, Vince Gilligan and Peter Gould. Incredible job all around. I will miss this universe. It's over. I will miss it. Thank you, guys. Peace.